I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Welcome into Tech Talk. Happy Thursday, one day away.
Didn't even let the beat drop. I'm sorry you jumped in. Just thought you would. As a musician, I figured
It was more of someone who was scrambling to get his stuff together.
I could see that. Sorry. Finish your intro.
Just to reset. Hold on. Deep breaths today. Welcome into Tech Talk. Happy Thursday. You've got us on Double T 97.3, Double T 97.3.com. We are live from the First United Bank Studio, 3 full hours with us as we take you all the way up to 6 o'clock. At that time, well, no live coverage. There's none. It's the first day we've had none on the board in a long time.
Yeah,
it's odd.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
What is there tonight? Do you wish Big 12 played on Thursday nights? Because I kind of do. I get the whole...
I wish everybody else in the Big 12 played on Thursday nights.
Well, yeah, I wish everybody had to play at least once on a Thursday. Just kind of toss it in there occasionally. I mean, yeah, pretty well everybody has a big Monday game.
You have like the bye week sort of feel where, you know, you're going to have a week off and you don't play till Saturday. Everybody has that. If you switched that out for that week, that was like the Thursday night game.
Yeah,
I would totally take that, and that would make sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
would totally.
I think they could make it to where you could sprinkle in some Thursday night basketball on for the Big 12. But Big 12 is an ESPN conference as far as basketball goes. Because Big 10 plays some Thursday games on Fox or on FS1. Big 10,
yeah,
Big 12 is ESPN.
They're trying to get away from the Big 12 so people will watch them.
Well, what's the ESPN lineup on Thursday night? It's NBA on ESPN on Thursday, so they don't want to cover up their own product.
They should.
Right, because I would love
to cover that up.
Yeah, I would love if we had a Thursday night basketball game tonight because it's just sitting there all alone, especially this time of year after football's already gone.
I mean, I've personally felt attacked and offended that the past couple of Wednesday nights we haven't had a Big 12 game. Back-to-back weeks, I didn't know what to do with my Wednesday night, you know?
What are you going to do with it?
Well, it's a Thursday night, so...
Next time it rolls around, have you figured out plans?
Maybe take one of those pre-bed naps we were talking about yesterday.
Pre-bed?
Yeah, you know, you eat, you take a nap, which is my version of accidentally drifting to sleep and then waking back up and be like, oh, I need to go to bed.
Okay.
I need to sleep some more.
Yeah.
There you go. Don't be productive at all. Clint Scott, Chois Woodman in for Dr. Mike Gustafson, Ben Poorman behind the glass. You can call us on the Visual Edge IT hotline. That number is 806-771-0973. Or you can hit us up on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Thoughts, comments, questions, what to do with your Thursday nights. Take us anywhere with the mobile app, brought to you by Happy State Bank. We're also streaming live on Fox 34 News Now and on YouTube. We will talk plenty of Texas Tech baseball just a day away.
I'm excited.
It's Baseball Eve. Happy Baseball Eve to you, Chois.
Thank you. I'm thrilled.
I was like, speaking of sleep, will you be able to sleep tonight, or?
I think so.
Excited?
I mean, I'm actually gonna hit the road as soon as we're done. So.
Oh yeah,
head to Arlington. So, got the weekend getaway with the wife. We're gonna go enjoy some Texas Tech baseball. The team has not always fared well in this particular event.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're gonna have a more successful event here. I'm feeling it. I think you take 2 of 3 this weekend.
That's where I'm at.
I think there's a decent chance you go 4-1.
You've seen the pitching announcement from Tennessee as well. It wasn't the I guess strong ace candidate that everybody thought it would be in Beam. Instead, it was AJ Russell.
I believe so.
Yeah. Freshman All-American last year.
Yeah, still
limited
really good.
stats, but super talented, and you wouldn't expect anything less from as good of a team and good of a program that Tennessee is. But I would say maybe not a shocker, but a little bit of a surprise. I think a lot of people were, I guess, thinking that it was going to be Beam on that Friday night, but, you know.
I think we see different Coaches have different approaches, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been plenty of years where Texas Tech's best starter is not your Friday guy.
Right.
Heck, if I remember correctly, last year, Mason Molina, probably your most consistent starter, went on Saturdays most of the time. I think that's correct. There's been a lot of years like that where your most consistent guy has gone on Saturdays. It may be not what you planned from the start, but for whatever reason, some guys, when backed in a corner or just want that extra day, the second day into the series, and they perform better. So I don't know what the reasoning for Tennessee is here. I wouldn't think it's that, hey, they look at the three teams that they're going to play and say Texas Tech is lesser of any of those, because I think Texas Tech's probably the most the toughest opponent that Tennessee will play in this thing. But that being said, I think the Volunteers still pack quite the punch with their rotation and who Tech will face tomorrow night.
Yeah, I didn't look at that of it not being the guy that I think was maybe, I'll say softly expected. Because you never know. Like you said, with different coaches' approaches and things like that, just feel like that was something that was just thought because you thought it might go with you saying, like, hey, we'll put our what expected to be the best guy on the mound against the best team we will face, and it was more of that rather than this is for sure going to be what the set rotation is whenever we get into more regular weekend series. But like I said, that I didn't go from that and seeing it not being beamed going, oh, well, they're going to put out a patsy on the mound. Woo!
Sure.
That park that is not so friendly to the long ball, count 10 of them against Tennessee. 10 against Tennessee. I would take it, though.
I would take it.
Yeah. What are you looking for in night one against Tennessee, other than a win?
More so, I mean, in baseball, when you got a lot of new faces out there, which this team has a pretty good, decent smattering of new faces as well as returners from last year, it's really to see those new guys more than anything, or see guys in different positions. Kevin Bizzell, we saw him catch one game, and it went well last year, the whole year. He came to Texas Tech as a catcher, was forced to play third base because you had basically no one on the roster that could do it consistently for you last year. So Bizzell at catcher is one thing I'm watching for. I can't not be excited to watch Pompey at shortstop. I think most people assume he's going to get the start. Tadlock can surprise us and maybe start an older guy there and let it be a battle at short, but I think he's seemingly won the job. So I'm extremely excited to see him. Cade McGee at third base, the transfer from Gonzaga. So it's more about new faces than anything. And Kyle Robinson. He got the Friday night start in Game 1 last year and didn't do so well. He gets to do it all over again. Hopefully no PTSD or anything for him. So there's a lot of little storylines for Texas Tech. But I think Texas Tech, and I am as homer as it gets, I think Texas Tech is a little underrated coming into the season. They're probably properly rated for what they did last year. But if things click, if the arms are what they could be, if you live up to some of that potential, this team is a regional host at minimum to me.
So that list you went down a little bit later in the show, I'm going to make you define, cut it to one. We will get to that. Coming up next, though, it's the Juice Headlines Round 1 on Tech Talk.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Welcome back to Tech Talk. You've got us on Double T 97.3, doublet97.3.com. Headlines Round 1. It is the Juice. Clint Scott, Chois, Woodman in for Dr. Mike Gustafson. Ben Porman behind the glass. Just real quick before we get to a headline. This on the chat line. Sorry if I missed it, but where's Gus? He's doing some college baseball Hall of Fame stuff in Kansas City. He will be back on via Zoom.
That is accurate.
Tomorrow.
Won't be too long.
Yeah. So we will get all of Gus's baseball thoughts right before he and Jamie call the first game of the season.
That's right. So he'll be hopping on with you I guess from the ballpark, probably.
Yeah, he should be in their booth.
Sweet.
Is what the plan is. So we'll spend an entire segment just him taking us around the stadium.
That'll be cool.
Yeah. You can hear every single game.
Have you been to that stadium?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I went to this event 2 years ago.
2 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
When we lost to Arkansas in the opening game?
We got there. We were worried about... I went with a friend. Could say he's a bro of mine.
You should come hang out with us in the studio sometime.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Try.
We were worried we weren't going to make the Michigan game, and mostly because of like traffic we were hitting, and about the time that I had to leave.
The one before?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the first night, and we got there, got to see the whole thing, got to see the walk-off, and was like, boy, if this is a sign for the weekend, it's going to be fantastic. And then Auburn and Arizona didn't have as good of results. Didn't have a terrible showing, but
yeah,
that's the one you're talking about, not the best history of success.
Owen Washburn.
That was Owen Washburn's walk-off.
His first taste of Texas Tech baseball was the walk-off. So like, hey, this guy's going to be good.
Where we started, where we were sitting, we were up on the right sideline, kind of in that little pocket there at Globe Life down at the very bottom of those seats because they were wide open. That's my favorite part of this whole thing is it's just, pick your seat thing.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty good. I
love it.
I think it's filled out a little, or I think it'll be filled out a little bit more this time around because, again, Michigan, you're not going to have a lot of baseball fans down here in the South. Mm-hmm. Tennessee's a big, big name that I think their fans travel really well, and it's not that far of a trip for them. So I think you're going to see a pretty good crowds in Arlington this weekend.
I will say, though, I was surprised with the amount of Michigan fans that were there.
Yeah,
that weekend.
It is still
Michigan,
surprising.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, not that I was like, wow, this is the best traveling fan base of all time.
Sure.
But you could have told me there was like 12 yellow shirts, and I would have believed you. But we were sitting right there, at least at the start of that game, right by Washburn. And we're like, dude, this dude's got a cannon. Yeah. Pretty incredible. You can hear every single game, though, this weekend on Double T 97.3.
All of them.
All of them. Coverage tomorrow will start at 6:30. Again, you're facing Tennessee.
Tarleton State.
I was looking at Tennessee and Arlington and was about to say Tarlington.
Tarlington.
Yeah. Tennessee first.
Tarleton State.
Softball will be in action this weekend as well. Second tournament that they will hit the field for. They are 3-2. They're going to San Marcos for the Texas State tournament. They will start at 6:30 tomorrow night at the Bobcat Softball Stadium against Sam Houston. They'll also have matchups on Saturday against Tulsa and Texas State, and then on Sunday they'll round out their stay there against Northern Colorado and then Texas State once again. Of course, they're coming off the Joanne Graff Classic in Florida last weekend. Bad result again for Lady Raider basketball.
Shucks.
Yeah, that's right. Another slow start. Oklahoma State went up 17-8 in the first quarter. Never caught back up. The Cowgirls went at 60-50. You did have a double-double in there from Kyla Freelon, who had 10 points and 13 rebounds. But that losing skid grows to 4. And I'm not sure if it's going to get any easier. Certainly not the next game as you go to Baylor. That is a Sunday afternoon affair. 2:30 start time for that one over on 107.7 Yes FM. And a very important headline here, Choice, for you. EA Sports College Football.
I was wondering if you could bring this up.
25. Would I? Released the trailer as the popular video game makes its long-awaited return this summer. You will get more information coming in May, but I would say an entire generation's worth of fans have been waiting this for a very, very long time. There was supposed to be a teaser during the national championship game.
That's right.
And it never happened.
Why?
I think if I have this right, people thought that they had said that, and they never actually said there was going to be a teaser, and it was like a grown rumor.
I'm wondering if there was supposed to be one, but the legal department said we don't have all our ducks in a row yet, or something like that. But anyway, I saw this announcement. I was thrilled. It's a real thing. It's happening. Mm-hmm. So I'm super excited. Like, I have not owned a current video game system since the Wii was still a current video game system.
You and Jamie Lynn.
I did play a lot on PS3, the NCAA 14 game, like after there was already a PS4. I am not a video game person. It's just I don't bash those that are. I mean, if you don't live through it, but this might prompt me. This game here might prompt me to spend some cash and get a new system.
Well, and what's interesting about this, because if you're listening to this right now and you're pulling your hair out, you don't care. I get it. Don't get me wrong. I get it. At the end of the day, it's still a video game. But how much this has crept into the actual sporting world, because this is what shut down the video game in the first place, was the payment side of it for the images of these players. And even though it was like, oh, that's number so-and-so, like we all know that is Tim Tebow. His last name isn't Tebow. You can go in and write Tebow. But
you can download rosters to get it all. Yeah, the likenesses were all used. Now there will be likenesses with actual names. I guess there's still a handful of schools that are holding out, or did they?
I don't know if that got resolved. And then you even had like
TCU
the individual
was one
player
of those at one point.
One of the most annoying stories to me that was really, really short was like the Caleb Williams thing out of nowhere. Like, I won't be in the video game.
Okay.
You're going to the draft. You won't be in the video game anyways.
Good for you. Yeah.
It's like, so you have to deal with some of that now. Like, and that is in the NIL world. This is now in the actual sporting world. It's in the actual realm of sports, even though it's still a video game.
Okay.
It's crazy how we've got here.
2 questions for you on the video game. Sorry, I'm not trying to hijack this or anything, but
I don't want to have.
One, who do you think will be on the cover, and who do you think should be on the cover if they use a current athlete? 'Cause I don't know if they're what they used to do to skirt the NIL stuff and actually be able to pay the cover athlite.
You do a
Michael
guy graduating out.
Yeah, Michael Crabtree was on there at one point. You do someone that's going pro. Mm-hmm. They used to do that. Do you think they will? Well, first, assuming they'll use a current athlete, because I think that's what they should do.
Seeing the transfer portal makes this interesting too, right?
Extremely.
Because you have a second window coming up. Yeah, you have to be like, you're staying here.
So you got to feel confident
for sure.
This guy, and they probably have to have those conversations. Like, hey, if you sign with us, you have to stay at this school.
Otherwise, we have the right to pull.
Right, all this money and this image. Yeah, like the contract goes away.
I actually think that there is a Big 12 candidate for this.
I do too.
Is it also Ollie Gordon in your brain?
That's one that I think has to be on the short list.
Because I think right now, I'm trying to think of, I would say more times than not, they go returning quarterbacks, right? Or quarter. It wasn't a quarterback
like
every time,
but
it was heavy on the quarterback because usually that's like the face of the team and the one that everyone recognizes, even though they couldn't name a single other person on that roster.
Probably.
But I don't think that's the case this year. I don't know if you have one.
Yeah.
It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
It is Tech Talk here on Double T 97.3 and DoubleT973.com. Thank you for joining us. Clint Scott, Chois Woodman, in for Dr. Mike Gustafson. He will be back with us tomorrow via Zoom, live at Globe Life. Ben Portman behind the glass, taking care of us. If you're looking for any of the coaches shows or anything like that tonight, maybe a live sporting event, nothing tonight.
We got nothing for you.
It's empty. It's clear.
We'll give you like some Fox Sports Radio.
But we will have all sorts of stuff tomorrow. So this will make up for it because we have several playoff games and then, of course, Texas Tech baseball. Starting off the Shriners Children College Showdown with the Tennessee Volunteers.
See?
So yesterday, Chois,
Clint.
you and I gave out a few superlatives for the season. So I'll remind you of some of the ones we did, okay? If you forgot. So we went team MVP of what we expected for this year's Red Raiders, and we both said Kevin Bizzell. We were the same on the first three, actually. We gave I forgot what we called these. I just realized. Gavin Cash was the home run king for both of us.
Okay.
And we went back to Kevin Bizzell for RBI Prince. The Golden Arm, a la who we think will be the best starter this year. Your pick was Kyle Robinson. Mine was Zane Petty. So pretty chalk on all of that.
Very chalky.
But I also think that's the fair way to do it because there's a reason why you have hype around all of those guys and expectations around all of those guys. So I'm going to continue this just a little bit because what I was leading into at the start of the show, and you were, night one, what are you looking for? What are you interested in? And I think you went down a pretty good list of what everybody is interested in. Kyle Robinson, how does he look starting off the year on the mound? Pompey is a freshman. As we expect him to be the starting shortstop. What does he look like on the field and live in-game action? I'm curious, though, for the entire season. If I gave you one player that you really focused in on, and the great thing is you don't have to do this, but if you were to do this, whose season are you most interested in playing out?
I think Pompey's probably, I don't know, maybe it's Kyle Robinson. I think that's probably the one. Pompey's probably second on that list. But Robinson, because you didn't have a consistent season all the way through last year, I think he would be my answer first. I think Zane Petty's also on that list. The two pitchers that you expect the most out of this season.
I think it'd be fair with the questions going into this year. And I say questions, not concern, just because you're trying to nail down that spot. And as much as it feels like you are confident on the batting side and you're confident on the fielding side of things, you're waiting to see what the pitching fully will look like. We know who your three starters are, at least for this weekend. Does it stay that way? Does it stay that same order?
Yeah.
Who's your midweek guys? Who's your, who's going to step up and be your relief guys? So I think it's fair to go any sort of arm first.
Yeah, I think both of those guys I would I'm very honed in on. I think because you look at you wonder, okay, why aren't they on more lists coming into the season, and why aren't they getting more respect? Look at their ERAs from last year. It's around 5. And that's because they weren't great in the middle of the season. So I think they both finished extremely well, but that's what I'm more honed in on is, can either of those guys do it consistently through a whole season?
And was that what? And to me, was that a? You okay?
I'll survive. Did the button work?
Oh, I don't think it was coming through my mic, even with the button shaking the whole room.
My bad.
Was that a youth situation for them with how their seasons went, or
for Petty, he was a true freshman. I think that one fits for him a little bit better. Was drafted pretty high. For Robinson, I just don't think he was as polished just yet. I think he's getting there. I think he's maybe there now. But those are the two. And then Pompey, just because, he looks the part right now in practice. In scrimmages, again, and the little bit that I've seen, but I'm also hearing things from other people like, hey, this guy's it. This guy's legit.
Looks the part, plays the part.
Yeah, does it translate, though? In year one as a true freshman playing one of the premier spots on the field at shortstop, that's where I sit with Pompey. I'm extremely excited to see what he does this year. The other guys, I'm not really like, oh, how does his season go? I think we know what to expect from Gavin Cash. I think we know what to expect from Kevin Bizzell. The next guy on that list for me might be Gage Harrelson. Harrelson, is that you?
That's mine.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Gage Harrelson, he's already, I guess, a quote-unquote, I would say he worked his way into being not the fan favorite by any means, but one of them. Certainly at certain points in the year, whenever he had some games where he was having multiple hits, and just following him along as just a kid last year. And now that it feels like, hey, center is yours, and you are fully replacing someone who, didn't quite have the bat all the time, but as you split time and started to take that position away, you can, the injury was certainly part of that last year. But like, center's yours, dude. It is all you. I like the way that he approaches the game. I also think, if it goes as we were expecting it to be, not only to be nailing down that center spot, but as most likely your leadoff hitter, and setting the table early. And so can you consistently do that? I think he is not one quite getting lost in the shuffle, but it feels like we get to his name, later down on the list because you're starting with Bizzell. You're talking about Gavin Cash, and I think you're talking about, and what would be second on mine is another name here, like Cade McGee, because there's an expectation that he will come in and produce, nailing down that third base spot. It's not a greenhorn coming in or anything like that. But Gage Harrelson is someone who I feel like can just do a lot of things for you on the diamond. He can. You just got to see it, and you saw it last year.
He had 320 as a freshman last year. He did really well,
and it's almost, for me, it's almost the sophomore slump question.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting it.
Well,
I'm just saying, but it's something to look at.
You look at the numbers early in the season versus late, he definitely dropped off, and I don't know if it was between the ears or had a little confidence dip or what, but it wasn't as good at the end of the season as he was early. And he struck out a little bit more towards the end of the season. So, I think there's some heavy expectations on Gage Harrelson to be one of your veterans, and he is just a sophomore. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, I think that's another good one. I think the pieces are there for this team.
Oh, absolutely.
The pieces are there. If they can put it together, this is a team that can do a lot of things. And I would not be shocked if they went out and beat the preseason number 8 team in the country tomorrow night. I wouldn't be surprised by any result from that game. Any result. Blowout win on either side. It's game one it's the opening night of the season. With two talented clubs going up against each other.
And you know what's going to happen either way. We're going to overreact.
Well, there's not as much time to overreact in baseball because
there will
turn
be
right around
not even 24 hours worth of time, but we'll get it in.
We will have another game.
I'm excited to do it. It is funny, though, with as many interesting storylines as I think you have on this roster, that we just kind of, you go to the unknown, right? You go to the Pompey side of things, to the pitching. But, like, Gavin Cash, it feels like we're all just accepting that you're not going to have the same number of home runs. It just feels like, that you pitching-wise, what's going to happen to him. You know how they're going to approach him. All of that stuff. But, like, that's interesting to me. What if he does, though? Or, like, how close can you get this year?
I think
because that would take 20.
I think my expectation is he's still going to flirt with 20. I think it's a little unrealistic to say he's going to get 26 again, but I don't think it's unrealistic to think he's going to get 20. He is a threat to go out of the yard every single time he steps to the plate.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
It is Tech Talk here on Double T 97.3, DoubleT973.com. Clint Scott, Chois Woodman. Call him Choister on the half shell. John Bidden Jovi behind the glass taking care of us.
If you're looking for any live sports, perhaps a coach's show or something like that, well, we'll just have a... I say we'll just. There's nothing wrong with it. Yeah. Some satellite radio for you.
Some people like Fox Sports Radio.
Yeah. You do a good job.
I just saw some news that is a little sad. We got golf on in front of the TV.
Is it the baseball news? Or is it actually sad news?
Wait, the baseball news?
I thought you were going into Manfred.
Oh, no.
What an odd...
Manfred,
Sorry.
Yeah.
We'll go to that next. You go.
No, Verne Lundquist will call his 40th and final Masters.
That's right. Yeah.
Coming up this April. So
he's one, we get in the conversation, especially us for what we do for a living. This pops up a lot because we have our own heroes and own inspiration and stuff. He's one that I feel like doesn't get thrown out a lot. When you're throwing out all of like the classic big names.
Yeah.
I love me some Verne Lundquist though.
I'm a big Verne fan. I got to meet him this year.
How'd that happen?
In Austin, Texas.
Oh.
He was upstairs at the Tech UT game, so that was the one good memory I had in Austin, because the rest of the day wasn't great. But
I blacked out for the rest of the game. I don't remember what happened.
No,
so
I got to meet Verne, and man, he's gracious. I thanked him for taking a picture with me, and he's like, "No, thank you." He's like, I'm like, "You're thanking me for
what a sweetheart
for taking a picture with you, the legend."
Yeah.
No, he's because some people you meet, and you're like, "Man, that sucked. This guy's a total jerk."
Total what?
I was gonna say jerk the whole. I almost said dirt.
That's what I thought you were about to say.
Dirk.
I thought you were going all the way in. I thought you were about to call someone a Richard.
That is not.
That Verne Lundquist is a real Richard.
No, but like there are guys.
Sure, not what you think.
And it's like, man, like, and I've heard stories about certain guys. It's just like, oh man,
that's the way Gus is. He sounds like he's really nice, but he's actually a rude British guy.
Really?
Yeah, he's even faking the accent.
Okay.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that side of him yet, but
he will meet you in person.
Keep the illusion.
Yeah.
But no, Verne was as gracious, as nice as can be. So, kind of sad. I mean, he's quite aged, so I understand him hanging it up.
People say that about Jamie now that it's his birthday.
Right, 50-year-old now.
Ancient.
I said aged, not ancient.
Well, I said ancient.
I don't want Verne here and then call him ancient. He's aged, but no, he's always done a great job with the Pastors, and of course his Happy Gilmore cameo. Mm-hmm. Can't forget that. Yeah. So it was kind of sad to see that, but you get one more with him.
Well, how about what I thought you were going with, the breaking news 6 minutes ago? What an odd way to do this. Rob Manfred says his tenure as MLB commissioner will end in 2029.
It is odd that what year are we in? 24?
We're 24. It's 5 years from now.
So he's basically signed a 5-year deal. That's what he did today.
Yeah.
He signed a 5-year extension, and then at the end of this deal, he's like, okay, I'm going to announce my retirement after this 5 years.
Do you think he's wanting
That's kind of a bold move, too. It's like, I'm not going to get fired in these next 5 years. I'm going to retire.
Or do you think this is when a lovable player, or not lovable is the wrong word because not every single player that's done this I would say is lovable, but a respected and great athlete says, this is my final year. What happens? Everybody pours on the gifts for the entire season. He's wanting this to happen for 5 years.
I think you might be onto something.
Maybe he gets 5 gifts from every single team.
Okay.
That's what he's going for. Yeah.
Make it happen, Cap.
This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. What do y'all think of the Clay McGuire hire? If you've missed this today, like I missed it in the juice on accident. Whoops. I was meaning to start the juice with that. The offensive line, this is something we talked about yesterday. We pretty much got this question every single day since you have been searching for an offensive line coach and since the separation of Hamby. And you mentioned Clay McGuire. That's one that obviously has major connections here, has been around, especially, I say, on the West Coast of late. He was on the East Coast with East Carolina, but has been a part of some terrific offenses following Leach up to Washington State, going to USC, and then back to Washington State. Obviously, the connection is there. I think he's done a really good job with his offensive lines and protecting the quarterbacks he's been in charge of with his units. So I like it. This is one of the first names we saw connected to this, and it's ultimately who it ends up being.
Yeah, I think this is a good hire. Obviously, I'm stating the obvious. You could have done a lot worse than Clay McGuire. This is an alum, so that's a plus. Mm-hmm. I don't like that some people always want it to be an alum. If you've got someone else like Joey McGuire who's not an alum and it works out, it's a good fit, then it's a good fit. And that doesn't have to be an end-all, be-all. But it happens that Clay has experience here as both a player and a coach, and he's a well-respected guy in the game of college football and in the realm of offensive line. So I think this is a very good get because there are guys there's three elements to coaching in college. There is the recruiting element,
mm-hmm.
there is the motivating element, and then there's the X's and O's part. And you can have coaches, the elite of the elite head coaches can do all three of those or surround themselves with guys that can do all three of those. And I think you've had some good recruiters on this staff, but you haven't seen just a ton of development, the X's and O's parts,
mm-hmm.
And the development parts on the offensive line in the last 2 years. And I think that's, again, not a shot at Hamby because it's been well beyond the last 2 years, but I think it's something that you've got to improve on, and McGuire has a history. Clay McGuire has a history of developing offensive lines.
So I was going to say, I really like that triangle that you've used before when I apply it to either coordinators or especially head coaches. But when you change it to development from X's and O's, when it comes to position coaches, to me, it's a little more accurate for what you're looking for. And that felt like such a huge need. And again, I don't think any of us expected it to not be Hamby from.
No.
And I get the signing and recruiting part. Maybe timing wise, maybe that played a part in it. Who knows what happened or what happened behind closed doors. But the obvious was you needed a guy who can develop offensive line, and so far that has been a plus of the new McGuire.
Yeah, I know. You're
going to have to say Clay McGuire every time.
We're going to have to go with Clay or Clay McGuire.
Clay.
Can't even go Coach McGuire. It's definitely that will be the toughest part of it all.
Yeah.
But,
he molds them.
A burden we
like
will
Clay.
bear if he's able to mold them. Unfortunately, you had to get punny there.
You just wanted to use a bear reference for Waco Woodman, right?
I don't think so.
You'll have to bear. This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Y'all think Gerlich is on the hot seat? Some real bad losses, but injuries.
No, I wouldn't call it a hot seat yet. To be on a hot seat, I think you have to be in danger of losing your job at the moment, whether the heat of your seat is heating up or not.
Yeah.
I think, and I don't think that's the case at all.
And I don't think, and even with the trajectory you're on, I don't think that's happening in the off season.
Yeah, but I do think the seat could start hot next year. I think it could start a little warm next year if things continue on the same path they are right now.
Well, I mean, you're just at a point where you need. I mean, to be blunt, you need to start seeing steps be taken.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, and again, like you said, you're missing three key players right now. There are injuries, but you don't get passes for those kind of things because macro level, you've got to win games. It comes down to that. And
you're still losing to teams that just doesn't seem like you should be losing to.
Yeah, and it's just the offense. That's what it's come down to. You need a new offensive coordinator in basketball because you've struggled just to put the ball in the basket. And they had some good looks last night. Just couldn't knock down shots. And it feels like it's a different thing every game lately.
And the turnover side of it also, and the slow start, feels like has been consistent in the Big 12, at least since you've gotten to conference play. Tech Talk here on Double T 97.3. It's what's going on when we come back.
It's every Red Raiders' favorite podcast. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
It's Tech Talk here on Double T 97.3 and Double T97.3.com. Clint Scott, Chois Woodman in for Dr. Mike Gustafson. He'll be back in tomorrow as we will be leading up to your first game of the season for Red Raider baseball at the Shriners Children College Showdown.
I've shortened
Say it fast.
I've shortened it to Shriners every time I say it, just because.
To the Shriners.
No, just Shriners College Showdown, College Baseball Showdown.
Well, forgetting the children. That is not the point.
I think
Choice.
it's assumed that Shriners is for the kids. So, okay.
I'm just messing with you.
Well,
I didn't mean to lead you into this.
I don't. How does the Shriners thing work? Because they were a sponsor of one tournament, but aren't they the ones that do they sponsor it, or do they bring money to sponsor it, or is this all out of
I'm glad you brought this
donations?
Glad you brought this question to my attention as an expert.
Because I think, when I think of Shriners, they're taking the donations, right? So are they turning around and taking your money
why does this sound like it's turning into a conspiracy?
Because it is.
They take the money,
and
then what? Where does the money
go? Give it to the children, but do they take a portion of this money to go sponsor 2 baseball tournaments? Because they already had the one in Houston. I truly don't know. I'm asking. So one of our tax
is none
people,
of the money going to the children? Is it all baseball?
That's all
is
I
the
care
children
about.
a front?
That's all I care about, is that the money's going to the kids. That's all. I'm just asking the question. Investigative journalism needs to live.
I feel like you're gonna have that Charlie Day meme, in your basement, where you got the red strings of everything, and you just look insane.
Oh,
yeah. This on the chat line. Kind of have a big basketball game coming up in 2 days.
Really?
You are on a 2-game. Well, you've won back-to-back games. I was gonna say streak.
Today feels like Friday because the Monday game, it feels like it's been so long.
Right.
It feels like you should be on the eve of your game already.
But you're not. The eve.
The eve.
You're on the baseball eve. That'll get you by.
Yeah.
You are going to Ames, looking to take down the Cyclones in a place they have yet to be beaten this year. We got this question. What do y'all expect in Ames? Do we keep it close, or do they win by double digits? You would not be the first conference team, by the way, that they have taken it to in their house.
If I'm having to throw money down on this, which I'm not.
You feeling okay?
I would probably bet. I don't really bet sports. I would probably bet that Iowa State's going to beat you by double digits, because I look at Iowa State as one, and it's not an indictment of Texas Tech at all. They are one of the top 2 teams in the league to me. Clear cut.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
At this moment, Iowa State, doesn't mean it can't change, but right now, Iowa State, yes, their record shows they're one of the top 2 teams in the league, but I also just think that that's how they've played up to this point. And
Style
they've been
of play,
overlooked
the way
a little
they
bit.
have beaten teams, choked the life force out of some teams.
Yeah, so you're going up against one of the best 2 teams in the league. You faced the other one on the road, and it didn't go well. Lost by 20+.
And then you still have
Houston.
the Warren Washington questions, which was addressed earlier today, and it's game time decision.
Yeah,
which is good to hear. I guess doesn't seem as lengthy, even if he doesn't play.
Yeah. I hope I'm completely wrong. I hope they go in and win on the road, because this team seems to handle, outside of your one game, the team has handled road atmospheres very well. You were very undermanned against Baylor and played them well for the most part. And you lost that game by, 6? But this team's even better than Baylor to me.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is one of the top 3, including your own home, one of the top 3 most difficult places to play in the Big 12 Conference.
I would argue that this is the most balanced team in the Big 12, because the way that they spread it out and the way that they involve each other, if you do have a guy that plays significant minutes for them, like a Taman Lipsy, if he has an off night, he's going to be picked up by the other guys. That's the way they've been all year. Or if a Keshawn Gilbert is having an off night and not getting the numbers that he's used to, you have so many guys that hang around that 9 to 10 range past just the starters. And they have so many bodies that they can throw at you. Because the other thing, this is a deep Iowa State team. And this, the way that I felt about the Cyclones is they don't have a guy that I necessarily think would be like, boy, when it comes to postseason awards, look for this guy as a Big 12 Player of the Year. But at the same time, I think that they are the most balanced and the most even, and are certainly talented. I'm not saying that they're not. Just they don't have like a Shed on their team. They don't have a Kevin McCullough or Dickinson sort of guy. They don't have a Jacoby Walter type player. Mm-hmm. They just have a bunch of guys who have bought in 100% to what Otzelberger wants to do. It is not a fun style of basketball to go up against. It's not all the way of what like Press Virginia was in those days, but man, they play hard. They don't put up which if you're looking for a positive, they don't put up the best rebounding numbers. Yep. But man, they just do everything right, and they give you nothing. And so you are going to have to work really hard to find open shots, and then you're going to have to make them. On the road.
That's what it comes down to. As stupefying as it is, it's going to come down to whether you're hitting the shots or not.
And this feels like a given, but you got to take care of the ball.
Take care of the ball, rebound, and hit shots. Those are the three for this game. Can't give up a lot of second chance points. That feels like that's a key going into any game for Texas Tech this year.
Sure.
Because you haven't done that consistently. I mean, but Texas Tech is one game back of Iowa State in the standings, so I'm not going to sit here and dismiss the Red Raiders' chances to go win in Ames. I don't think you've won there since you celebrated on their floor a Big 12 championship in 2019. I think that was the last time you were able to win in Ames. It's a very difficult building to win in, so maybe it's me, setting my expectations low because I don't want to be disappointed, but this is your toughest game left on the schedule. No question about it. The toughest game that you've got left.
I think it was your second toughest game of the entire season.
I agree.
Outside of Houston on the road, because
that's
that was
how I look
toughest.
at it right now.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see on the other side. Again, if Tech goes in and surprises and wins, because I think Grant McCasland is one of the best coaches in college basketball at finding a way to win and for his team to play well on the road. You look, and the Big 12 is the toughest league to play everywhere in college basketball. It's tough to play on the road. But you look at the teams within this league and some of the atmospheres that you've got, it's extremely difficult to win away from home. But you look at what Grant McCasland did at North Texas before, you look at two of the early road wins you've had, I think you're going to win a couple more games away from home this year. This wouldn't be one I'd predict, though.
I mean, yeah, when you're stacking this up against road games to UCF, West Virginia, and Oklahoma State, one of these is not like the others.
Yeah.
And it's what's on Saturday. Now, I'll say if you have the same sort of defensive performance as you did on Monday night and you have the same sort of effort, you're going to absolutely hang in this game and have a chance. I think that's what can you weather the storm and not get knocked out early. And even if you get behind, just keep plugging away, because what Iowa State likes to do is make teams fold. That's why it's not fun to play against them, especially at Hilton.
Yep. This has been the Tech Talk Podcast, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Check out our library of Double T 97.3 podcasts at doublet97.3.com.